In this video, we'll cover the Spring Boot starters. Okay, so what's the problem? So as we know, building a Spring application is really hard. And one of those frequently asked questions as far as which Maven dependencies do I need to use? And this is just information that I pulled from the QA forum for this course, that this is a common question that developers have as far as I want to build a Spring MVC or Hibernate application. What are the minimum dependencies that I need? Or if I use a POM, what are the exact dependencies? Because it's really tricky to figure out how to get started. And so, it'd be really great if there was simply a list of Maven dependencies that's collected as a group of dependencies for that whole one-stop shopping. Because as a developer, I really don't want to waste time having to search for each dependency and trying to see what's out there and see what's available. There really should be an easier solution for all of this. So the solution here is by making use of Spring Boot starters. All right. So the Spring Boot starters are a curated list of Maven dependencies. It's a collection of dependencies that are grouped together that have been tested and verified by the Spring development team. And these starters make it much easier for the developer to get started with Spring. And it also reduces the amount of Maven configuration that you have to do. And so also no more need for searching or hunting for the right dependency. Simply use a starter and you're ready to go. So, let's look at an example with Spring MVC. So building a traditional Spring MVC app, you normally would need to add like Spring MVC. You also would add Hibernate Validator for some form validation. And then for a given web template, you'd have to put some information there. So a lot of stuff that you'd have to do individually as far as listing out those dependencies. Here's a solution by making use of the Spring Boot starters for web. Then you simply add this Maven dependency to your Maven POM file. And this is a single entry. And so this is a Spring Boot starter. It's a collection of Maven dependencies with compatible versions. So this one dependency entry, it actually contains other dependencies. So it contains Spring Web MVC, Hibernate Validator, JSON, Tomcat, and so on. So you get a lot of stuff for the price of one. And this saves the developer from having to list all of the individual dependencies. And it also makes sure that you have compatible versions of those dependencies. And this is really helpful. I love this feature. In Spring Initializer, in order to get access to this, you simply select Web Dependency, and you'll automatically get the Spring Boot Starter Web in your pom.xml file. So here's our initializer website, and let me kind of zoom in a bit. So once you select Web here from the list, then this is the actual Spring Boot starters that they'll add for you. And this Web starter here will basically give you support for Tomcat and Spring MVC. So let's look at the example if we're building a Spring app that needs web and security. Well, then we simply select the dependencies in the Spring Initializer. So here we have dependencies. We have these items selected for web, security, JPA, and Thymeleaf. And so then when it generates your project, the Spring Boot starters will automatically be added to your Maven POM file. All right, so let's dig in here. So we have our dependencies. We have them selected. We do the generation part. Then here's our pom.xml. So we'll have this Spring Boot Starter Web. We'll have the Spring Boot Starter Security. We'll have Starter Data JPA. And we'll also have Starter Thymeleaf. And so it'll do all of this for us automatically by making use of that Spring Initializer website. All right, so this is pretty good. So we saw some of the starters. So there's actually 30 plus Spring Boot starters that are created by the Spring development team. So there's the Spring Boot Starter Web. So that's for building web apps, includes validation and REST. It uses Tomcat as the default embedded server. There's the Starter Security for, of course, giving security support. There's the Starter Data JPA for adding database support with JPA and Hibernate, and so on. If you'd like a full list of Spring Boot starters, simply go to the link here, lovetocode.com/Spring Boot starters. This will automatically redirect you to the official Spring documentation that'll list out all of the Spring Boot starters. Now, once you start working with the starters, the frequently asked question is like, okay, I'm adding this Spring Boot starter XYZ. but what's in it? Like, how do I know what's in this starter, right? Well, one approach is that you could view the starter's pom.xml file by, again, using a link here that I provided. But this normally provides references to other starters and so on. So you'll have to kind of dig a bit. It's somewhat cumbersome to work through it. But there's another solution here. So what we can do is make use of the IDE. So most IDEs have a dependency management or view feature, and this is much easier to navigate. And I'll actually show you how to do this with Eclipse and IntelliJ. Okay, so for Eclipse users, basically you open up the pom.xml file, and then you select the tab for dependency hierarchy at the bottom, and then you expand the desired starter, and then you'll actually see the content in that starter. So from this little screenshot here, we can see at the top, Spring Boot Starter Web. It includes starter, JSON, Tomcat, validator, web, WebMVC, and so on. So that's kind of the basic approach that you can use to kind of explore the starters, to see what's in there, to see what's available. For the IntelliJ users, you simply use the menu option, View, Tool Windows, Maven Projects, and then expand dependencies here. And then you'll see the list of starters, and then you can kind of expand a given starter, and then you can see the actual contents of that given starter. All right, so that's the basic approach for exploring or finding out what is in a given starter.